Last year, I divested myself and my partner from oil and gas companies. As of this video, T-Bone, my partner, his investments sit at 0% oil and gas companies, while mine sits at about 2% funds that have oil and gas. I have specifically invested in one activist fund that intentionally buys the crappy companies because the idea is to try and change them from the inside with shareholder activism. I'm going to walk you through how I divested, and if you're interested in becoming a more sustainable and ethical investor, check out the free ethical investing workshop that we have linked in the description below. First of all, what is divesting? Divesting, very simply, is removing your money from certain companies that violate your personal ethics. In this case, it's oil and gas companies. That means I decided I didn't want Chevron using my very hard-earned money to do any more fracking. But you can divest your money from anything. You can divest from gun companies, tobacco companies, alcohol companies, companies using prison labor. Divesting can happen on a personal level, like I'm doing, and it can also happen on an institutional level. Many student movements, for example, have been successful at getting colleges and universities, who often have hundreds of millions in their endowments and their investments, to divest from things like fossil fuels and prison labor. I love every time students get their colleges to divest. I'm like, we love a systemic change moment. So now you might be asking, well, why bother investing? Why did you want to do this at all? The planet is literally on fire. And basically every single climate scientist out there says, if we don't make major changes soon, we are just going to hell in a handbasket as a species. My partner and I both consider ourselves environmentalists, and we make a lot of day-to-day choices to try and minimize our impact on the planet. For example, we are a single-car household, we don't buy or eat meat in our home, and we get all of our clothes thrifted. Actually, I'm rocking some thrifted jeans right now. These are Everlane 2. I think they retail for like $90, and I got them for like $20. Shout out thrifting. But ultimately, the purchases that we make are teeny tiny potatoes in the game of sustainable changes. Our investments, and your investments too, are an area that I think that we should put more focus on, because we get more bang for our buck when we make changes with our money. And that's because investing is an area that keeps growing. We've known for a few years that only 100 companies are responsible for 71% of global emissions. It's not our personal choices. It's not you and me's personal choices that are absolutely wreaking havoc on our climate and annihilating species right and left. It is literally these companies. We know whose fault it is, and it's these companies like BP and Shell and Marathon Oil. So to make a real impact as an individual, it's less about using a reusable coffee cup, though don't get me wrong, I want you to use a reusable coffee cup for sure. And it's way more about hitting these companies in their wallets. And that's what sustainable and ethical investing allows us to do. Over time, we put more and more money into our investments, and the overall pot grows. That means, broadly speaking, that the companies we invest in have more and more money and more power to do things with. And personally, I don't want oil and gas companies to grow and become even more powerful because, frankly, they're destroying the planet. By divesting, we take some of our money and power back. We're saying, hey, Exxon, we're sick of your oil leaks that happen again and again and pollute our oceans and kill our water animals. Divesting, for me and my partner, and probably for you if you're watching this video, is a way of aligning your money with your values. And it's a way of having a much bigger impact on the world around you than buying one pair of thrifted jeans. So why is divesting in your personal investments important or impactful? How does divesting really make an impact? Because it's one thing to say, let's take down these evil corporations. And then it's another thing when you think, okay, well, I only have $6,000 invested. First things first, on a personal level, it just makes me feel better. We literally have the proof that fossil fuel companies are responsible for climate change, and knowing that my money is not a part of that makes me feel better. It makes me feel like a better steward of the planet, and it makes me feel more connected to my fellow humans. Because honestly, when we're talking about climate change, what we're really talking about is human survival. The planet is going to survive whether or not humans are living on it. It will look different. There will be different species on it. But when we talk about climate change, we're mostly saying, hey, are we going to be able to survive if the climate changes? Divesting also means that my money, from how I earn it to how I spend it to how I invest it, is in line with my personal beliefs. And frankly, for me, I really consider that priceless. We only get one life, and how we show up day after day is how we end up living our whole lives. How we show up in realms of power, such as money, really does make a difference. Now, I know divestment is not a perfect solution to the climate crisis, and I'm not proposing it as one. Divesting is one part of a sustainable financial plan. The goal with divestment is to make enough of a dent in these financial companies' profits by pulling our money out of them that they turn around and say, hey, we're going to change our behaviors. And the tide is turning. Divestment is beginning to make a big impact in the overall investment industry, which is really exciting. Younger generations are demanding more and more socially conscious companies and socially conscious behaviors. And frankly, oil and gas mining is becoming more and more politically fraught. In 2019, Goldman Sachs announced it would not fund drilling in the Arctic, partly because they didn't think the project was profitable, #capitalism, and partly because they were already catching heat from groups like the Sierra Club and the Rainforest Action Network. A report from Yale Climate Connections states that growth from cleaner energy sectors, once considered a pipe dream, are now enough of a concern that they are forcing fossil fuel companies to pivot into developing green tech. So yeah, divestment does matter. And on the flip side, investment into companies that you actually believe in, into companies that are actually doing the right thing. I'm using quotes because it's a very nebulous term, but that type of investment also matters. Both are obviously a long-term strategy. It takes time to divest from companies on a personal level, and then it takes time for that divestment to actually impact the companies, and then it takes time for that company to say, okay, here's how we're going to change. So personally, I'm participating in divestment knowing this is just one part of my overall sustainable financial plan and just one part of my overall environmental activism. How we actually divested. So it's actually really simple to divest. What we did was reviewed our funds to see which ones had oil and gas companies in them, sold those funds, and then bought new funds that didn't have oil and gas in it. Easy peasy. The real trick to divestment is finding those new funds that you do agree with and that you do want to invest in. We decided to divest from oil and gas, but maybe on your end, you don't mind having oil and gas companies in your portfolio, but you are against companies that use any prison labor. What you need to do is research companies that are not using prison labor. And this is the thing that can take the most time. It takes a while to do this kind of research, do this kind of homework, because you need to check each company to be like, okay, well, Target, are they using prison labor to make their clothing? Or, Walmart, et cetera, et cetera. This is the step that usually slows people down. It's well enough to say, oh yeah, I can sell what I've currently got, but what do I replace it with? Luckily, it's something that I personally enjoy doing. I literally spend my spare time doing this because I'm very into it. I'm a nerd. What can I say? I have done a lot of research into more ethical funds. I do want to say really quickly, there's no one perfect fund, so just release that thought, we are all compromised under capitalism. But there are way better index funds, mutual funds, ETFs out there than just kind of your standard S&P 500 fund. And I have put a list of the funds that do exclude fossil fuels and that exclude prison labor, and some funds that actively invest into green tech into our course, Ethical Investing 101, How to Make Money and Still Be a Good Person. The course is all about teaching you how to invest ethically and more sustainably. I teach you specific strategies around the stock market and the real estate market, because I know a lot of us have an interest in investing in real estate. So we teach you how to be a good landlord. And we teach you a lot of other things like impact investing, how to do fund research on your own, what an ESG number is and how to find it, how to divest, and how to find and open an ethical bank account. And it comes with 16 fund suggestions where I've already done the research so you can trust these funds. You don't have to waste your own time going around Googling this, Googling that, comparing all the things. No, I already did that. And it was a good time for me. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Oh my God, I'm such a nerd for the cause. I really am. Whew. This is who I am. This is who I am. So if all of that sounds like your jam, you can find that link in the description. Anyway, that's how my partner and I divested from oil and gas last year. We feel really good about our portfolios now, and I'm happy to report that Yes, the market overall was kind of a wonky ride in 2021, but we didn't lose any more money than your normal S&P 500 return. So if you're concerned that ethical or sustainable investing is going to cost you your retirement, I can report that that has not been my personal experience. Let me know what questions you have about divesting, about ethical fund research, or about sustainable investing in general in the comments. I love talking about this, so I'm happy to get into it with you. If you learned something from this video, please give us a thumbs up and make sure to hit subscribe.